Welcome back to the Sovereign Ratio. The last couple of days in the crypto market and in Bitcoin specifically have been huge. Bitcoin has run up and tested 50K, which actually sits between the 618 and 65 golden pocket. Today, I'm going to go over just how important the next couple of months are as a cryptocurrency investor and what kind of plan or how you should be making your plan for what you're going to do pre-halving to secure the most crypto that you possibly can, if that's your goal, for the next Bitcoin run-up, which should end in late 2025. We're going to go through a lot of information today, so buckle your seatbelts and get ready to go. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave me a comment below. Before I get started, I just want to take a moment and say thank you to everybody that subscribed to my channel. I didn't think that at this point in time, after starting a channel in April of 2023, that I would have 624 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, especially when a lot of crypto channels have 3, 4, 5, 600,000 subscribers, but I'm going to tell you it's a grind. It's not easy to get to the point where you're getting hundreds of subscribers, and I'm doing my very best to give you the best information that I can, and I really appreciate every single person that's supported me and subscribed to my channel in the last 10 to 11 months or so. It means a lot to me, and I'm going to continue making content because I care about presenting logical and factual information. I'm not trying to shill anything. I'm not trying to pump anything. I'm giving you the best opportunity that I can with the information that I have to be successful. So the main point that I want to get across in this video is that I'm going to give you everything that I possibly can and all of the information that I possibly can for you to be successful in this crypto market. I have had influencers and other people direct me in the past in an incorrect way that led me to massive losses, and I've spent an incredible amount of time learning as much as I can to be as successful as I can so I can help other people in the same situation. So if this is your first cycle, I'm going to do my best to give you the best information that I possibly can, and we're going to approach this video in a three-facet idea. It's going to be where are we now, where are we going, and how do we get there? So first of all, I've cleared my chart for all of you, except for the halving dates, because I think that's an important analysis point for us to get started here with where are we now. Currently, Bitcoin has run up to the point of $50,388 according to the Bitstamp chart. Now, in the past, if you watched any of my previous videos, I believe in the 618-65 golden pocket and both its support and its rejection. In the past, every single time that Bitcoin has had a 4-year cycle, it's rejected from the 618 or the 65 on the pre-halving pump. If we take a Fibonacci tool and run it from the top of this all the way to the bottom, you can see that 50,317 is the 65. 48,601 is the 618. Again, Bitcoin is rejected from this particular level every single time in the last 4-year cycles. Here's the 2020 halving, and if we do the exact same thing and run a Fibonacci from the top all the way to the bear market bottom, you can see that the golden pocket was between 13,362 and 13,892. In this particular cycle, the very first pump went all the way up to the 6.5 and had a rejection here on the weekly chart. You can see the topping wick here, and then a second pump up to right around the 618 with another big topping wick. If we do the exact same thing for the 2016 halving, we run that from the top all the way to the bottom. And again, we're using the Bitstamp chart because this wick right down here on the bottom is actually lower on the Bitstamp chart than it is any other chart. And Bitstamp is one of the oldest exchanges for Bitcoin that has been around for a very long time. So we're going to use it for that particular purpose. But if we do that, we can see that price ran up in the pre-halving pump all the way to the 618, right around $780. It didn't quite make it to the 6.5 at $811. But what we have here is we have 3 situations where price ultimately rejected from the golden pocket between the 618 and the 6.5 every 4 years. It may have been a little bit different. It may have rejected off the 618. It may have rejected off the 6.5. But in general, before the halving, Bitcoin has ran up to the golden pocket and then rejected from it. Now, I should say at this point, if you don't know what the golden pocket is and you don't know what the halving is, I would highly recommend that you watch some of my other videos or even my TA 101 series to have a base understanding of what I'm talking about here, because crypto, while it is becoming more popular, is a very nuanced form of investment, and most people don't really know anything other than the name Bitcoin. So if you are new here, I would implore you, please go through my previous videos and learn what these things are so you can better understand the information that I'm giving you right now. So I've been screaming on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and everywhere else that I think the 618 is ultimately going to be the gatekeeper to the bull market, and it's going to be the point of rejection like it always has been in the past, 3 out of 3 times. Why would this one be an exception? And even if it is an exception, why would you present your audience with anything less than 100% probabilities? Because it's rejected here 3 out of 3 times, for me that's the best probability. But there's one key thing that I left out of my previous analysis that I want to point out right now, and we're looking at the current price action for Bitcoin. I think the one thing that I left out of my analysis is the fact that in one time in the past, Bitcoin actually did run up to the 6.5 out of the golden pocket and rejected from that, rather than just straight rejecting from the 618. And that was in the last cycle in 2019, whenever Bitcoin had its pre-halving pump all the way up here and then rejected quite heartily off of it down to like 70% lower than what it was at the pump. Now, if we look at current price action, you can see that Bitcoin is currently sitting in the middle of this golden pocket, again, between 48,600 and 50,300. That is the golden pocket. That is where Bitcoin is always rejected. And some other influencers like myself and Neste and some others that have been very conservative as far as how this pre-halving pump is going to go have been screaming that the 618 is the ultimate point to the bull market. I've since reevaluated, and I think that a daily close above 50,300 or 50,200-ish is probably the actual key to the bull market, because we've seen an instance in the past where Bitcoin ran up to that value, that 6.5, and rejected very harsh from it. Now, in the previous instance, it actually ran up to the 6.5 first and then ran down to the 618 as a retest. In this instance, it kind of looks like Bitcoin wants to go to the 618 first and then the 6.5 as a retest. Now, again, this is just probabilistic. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Bitcoin could go to 70K right now. I have no idea. But what I know is that in the past, I have data and I can rely on that data until it fails. And right now, that 50,300 level is really the line in the sand for me as far as where I'm going to start looking at DCAing or not DCAing. So as far as where we are now, the other important piece of this that we're missing besides the Fibonacci levels is time-based analysis. If I look at the second cycle here in January of 2015, I can see that on the week of January 12, 2015, Bitcoin bottomed in that bear market. So if I scroll out on the chart and start looking for bull market tops, you can see this bull market top here in December of 2017. But we're actually looking at January 12th, 2015. So if I mark that off right here and run a date range to the bull market top, you can see that it is 1,064 days or 152 bars from the bear market bottom to the bull market top. Interestingly enough, if we grab the date range and do the exact same thing here from this bear market bottom in December 2018 to the next bull market top in November of 2021, what do you know? 1,064 days, 152 bars. If we go to this current bull market and we consider this the bottom, which it most likely is, here in November of 2022, and we run that 1,064 days, that puts us in October of 2025 for the next bull run top. Now, that hasn't broken yet. If this golden rejection breaks and we don't reject here from 50,300 and then move down and have a pre-halving correction like we have in the past, I actually am not sure that this 1,064 days is going to hold for the bull market top again. But for right now, my thesis stands that 1,064 days from November 21st, 2022 is going to be the top of the next bull cycle. The reason for that, that's what's happened exactly in the past. There are a lot of time-based analysis date ranges that you can run, whether it's from the bear market bottom to the bull market top, or the halving to the bull market top, or the bear market bottom to the halving. They all line up. They're the same number of days every single time. Making time-based analysis very easy. The question is now, is with the Bitcoin spot ETF approval, and the institutions coming in and buying up Bitcoin, has this effectively broken the cycle? Well, we don't know. The best thing that we can do is use the data that we have, and if that data gets invalidated, then we have to find new data to use. Right now, that data has not been completely invalidated, though we are hanging on by a thread at this point. If Bitcoin has a one-day close and stays above 50,317 for at least 3 candles, I would say 3 consecutive days, I would say the whole 4-year cycle as it is invalidated, and time-based analysis needs to be reevaluated and what we're going to do going forward. However, if the data is still good and time-based analysis along with Fibonacci analysis is still effective because it has not yet been invalidated, we can take a look at this. Back in 2016, as I've stated in previous videos, I'm sorry if this is repetitive for some of you, but it is important to get the point across for the whole message of what I'm saying today. If we look at this right here, this pre-halving pump, all the way down to where it corrected was 40.7% from June 2016 to August 2016. Bitcoin price dropped 40%, and any altcoins that existed back then, which is probably just Ethereum and Litecoin and maybe Dash or something like that, probably fell 60 to 70%, just like they did in the next cycle, where if we look at this here on this Bitcoin correction, I want to note that the black swan event here of COVID does not count in this analysis. That is an external factor that can't really be predicted. But if we just take the regular 6.5 rejection here down to probably where it should have corrected, it was a 53.78% correction. And the reason that I say what it should have done is if you take a Fibonacci level here and run it from the bear market bottom to this pre-halving pump, you can see that Bitcoin retraced right into the golden pocket again. It's just in the opposite direction. This is a fib retracement instead of a fib extension. What we've run here is a fib extension from the top to the bottom. What we've run here is a fib retracement from the bottom to the top. This entire movement, the fib retracement, ran right into the golden pocket. You can see that the lowest orders for closing during those candles after the retracement are right at the 6.5. That 61865 golden pocket is the most important place in crypto when it comes to planning trades and looking for retracements and extensions. The fact that Bitcoin actually dumped below that all the way down here to like 3,700 bucks is simply just because of the black swan event. That's not something that can be predicted, and that's not something that people can anticipate. So that being said, here we are present day, looking at the exact same scenario. Providing that Bitcoin does not have a close above 50,300, we're in the same situation. Bitcoin has run up to the golden pocket. If we take a fib retracement from the bear market bottom to where we are right now, you can see the golden pocket sits between 27.7 and 28.9. Now for me, I'm not sure that it's actually going to hit the golden pocket this time, simply because of this massive level of support that we have here at 32K. If I just draw a simple trend line right across, look at all the support we have at that level. That was formerly support here, turned into resistance here, and then we broke through, and I could easily see that coming back down and doing a retest of that 32K level, especially with the 0.5 retracement sitting at 33K. That like 31 to 33K area, if Bitcoin does get a retracement from here, is the most likely target. Now, also because of institutions coming in, it's quite possible that Bitcoin doesn't have that big of a correction and maybe just comes down here to the 382 sitting at 37K, which we've almost seen in the last correction of about 21%. It didn't quite get there, but 37K is a point of interest, 33K is a point of interest, and that 27 to 29 area is a point of interest. But more than that, I think this is one place where a Fibonacci level is not going to be greater than the support that we have here at 32K, which is just absolutely huge. Now, I want to reiterate, the bearish scenario for the short term is really hanging on by a thread right now. If we go back in the past, it's easy because hindsight's 2020, but we're living in this moment right now and we don't know what's going to happen. But I will tell you that we are very close to the brink of invalidation for everything that I just said. And if Bitcoin does do that, it's going to go on a bullish tear, in my opinion, that I can't predict and I don't have targets for, because this is a brand new scenario that's never happened before. What I'm presenting you is the scenario where Bitcoin gets the healthy pullback that it's always had and then moves forward after the halving. If it doesn't do that, I can't tell you what the proper time to DCA into altcoins is, because the whole goal of this is not necessarily to buy Bitcoin, right? We want to take advantage of the massive gains of the altcoins, but we also need to enter the altcoins at the right time. And if you're not sitting in altcoins right now because you purchased them at the right time about 6 months ago, then right now you're probably looking for an entry because you know what's going to happen in the next year, year and a half, 2 years on these things with the life-changing gains that we're going to see, which is probably the last life-changing gain cycle that we're going to have now that institutions have entered. if Bitcoin does have a healthy correction, I have an altcoin pulled up here that not necessarily because I like the altcoin, I actually don't really care for the altcoin that much, but this one is very easy to use because a lot of people know what it is, and the chart is right here and available with some historical data, and that is Cardano. If we look back here in June of 2024, this is the time when Bitcoin had its pre-halving pump for the last cycle. And you can see that ADA also had a pre-halving pump for the last cycle. But what we're looking for is, where do we buy it? Where do we DCA into this? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. If Bitcoin right now does have its pre-halving correction like we've seen in the past, we can look at the stochastic RSI and see here that the best times to buy historically were when the stochastic RSI bottomed and then crossed up. So we can get a little line here and start marking that off. When the stochastic RSI crossed up 20 after it had dipped, there's one right there, and then it did it again right here, and there's one right there, and then it did it again right here, and there's one right there. If you would have taken 33% of whatever your allocation was in Cardano, Chainlink, Filecoin, Ethereum, whatever, they all kind of did the same thing around the same times. You've got DCA1 here, DCA2 here, DCA3 here, which is a little bit higher, but this is still really, really low in terms of the entire bull market, because if we zoom out, you can't even see that gap anymore. Cardano ran from 12 cents to $3.15 in that time period. So if you would have DCA'd in those 3 points, again, we're looking at 10 cents, we're looking at 4 cents, and we're looking at 4 cents. So 60, that's 48, that's like a 5 to 6 cent entry on average. And then it ran to $3.12. So if we get that healthy correction, looking for those stochastic RSI resets, at least one or two of them, like we see right here, crossing up 20, right here, crossing up 20. Even if you only just DCA everything that you want on the first one, I still think that you're going to get a magnificent buy if we get that pre-halving correction. If we don't, then our scenario goes to looking at the RSI on Bitcoin to determine when we're going to enter altcoins, and also using a special chart that's total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin, which I've showed several times on this channel. I'm actually going to go to that right now. It's under my market monitoring symbols. It's right here. Let's take the indicators off of it, make some space. The other way to tell when a good time to buy altcoins is when this chart right here reaches 0.25. In the last cycle, this correlates with DCA1, DCA2, DCA3 on Cardano that I just showed you. These are the same points for where I just marked that on Cardano. So on this chart, it's logical to say that if we get that pre-halving correction, Bitcoin could come down in this area, and that's a DCA point. And maybe you want to put your entire allocation into that altcoin in one DCA. And if so, that's really not a bad idea as long as you're willing to hold on to it for a year. But this chart right here, you can create again by clicking the plus sign, typing total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin, and putting the total 3 in USDT in parentheses, hitting enter, and it will create it for you right there. And then you have it. And now scenario 2. Let's say Bitcoin does not get its pre-halving correction like it's always had, but we still want to enter altcoins, specifically during the early stages of this bull market, because we are still very early. Well, if we don't have historical data to go on to be able to time when our entries are going to be and know essentially what's going to happen in the 4-year cycle, the best thing, in my opinion, is to wait for Bitcoin to have an RSI dump all the way down here to like the 10 area or the 20 area. The relative strength index is an indicator that I've talked about several times on different videos. I'm actually just going to collapse all these other ones and just leave the RSI up here. When RSI dips all the way down here to the bottom, it's usually a really good time to at least DCA, if not open a long. Now, I'm not going to talk about longs in this video because this is a long-term planning type of thing. This is looking for DCA so that we can sell at the top of the bull market. But if Bitcoin does not have that healthy correction, the only thing that we're relegated to is looking for those corrections where Bitcoin gets down below this line on the 1-day RSI. And if Bitcoin does go on a torrential tirade, just complete bullishness and making new all-time highs before the halving or whatever all this stuff people are talking about on Twitter, if it does that, the only thing that we can do is either buy right now and put everything in, or we can start looking for these RSI dips, which are not going to happen very often, but they will happen. On Bitcoin specifically, What I consider to be a bearish RSI scenario on the daily chart is anything below 40. So if Bitcoin dips below 40, you can see like right here on this dip, it got down to the 24 area back in March of 23. On this dip in August of 23, it got down to 15. Those are the places where when that happens, altcoins are going to go down even harder than Bitcoin is. So if Bitcoin's going to go down, you give it a few days, maybe a week, let those altcoins bottom, and then start DCAing into those altcoins as Bitcoin's RSI level is extremely low. That's the only thing that we're going to have to go off of in this cycle if Bitcoin goes on a bullish tirade to the likes that we've never seen before because of institutional adoption. So that brings us to the real meat and potatoes of this video. The next Bitcoin halving is around 60 days from now, scheduled between April 8th, 2024 and April 17th, 2024. You have essentially 2 months to figure out a plan to execute on to get the best available purchase price for these altcoins and Bitcoin that you're looking to hold to the next bull run. This cycle looks a tremendous amount like the 2015-2016 cycle, where Bitcoin's pre-halving pump ran right into the halving, which is kind of like what we're looking at right now. We're getting very close to the halving, and the ultimate correction prior to the halving, it was actually right after the halving is when that one happened, and it was very sharp and very quick to the tune of 40%, which we already looked at. Now, what's going to happen this cycle? I don't know. Maybe there's no correction at all. Maybe this 21% correction that we saw here from the 618 all the way down to 38K was the only correction that we're going to have. For me, I prefer to rely on historical data, and right now we're still not 100% invalidated. So I'm looking for that correction to the SR flip, which is called support and resistance, that we already looked at 32K. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't happen, maybe we only go to 36, maybe Bitcoin rockets up to 70. But the point is we have 56 days left until the halving, which is the most bullish event in the entire crypto cycle. You have 56 days to come up with a plan. You have 56 days to decide what you're going to do. This is a moment that I've been working on for 3 years, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So you can only imagine how frustrating it is whenever the halving pre-plan is not looking so good, and all the work that I put in for the last 3 years may or may not happen. We're right at the edge of our seats on this one. But if it doesn't, I also have to have a backup plan. And for me, I have an extremely detailed spreadsheet with every single coin that I'm interested in, multiple places of data to look at as far as DCA prices, total extension prices, how much I can potentially make off of it in the next cycle, all kinds of stuff. I go into very strong detail with my plan, and if you're going to be investing in this market, the work that you put in on the front end is going to pay off dividends in the long term. So take this for what it is. You have 56 days. Come up with a plan, put all of your, if you're interested in investing in crypto and taking the gains of this next cycle to your financial freedom and sovereignty, you have to put in the work. You have 56 days to come up with a plan, because after 56 days, probably we're going to see a massive move up for a year and a half that people are going to look back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this has actually happened. This is probably going to be the last big money making crypto cycle, and it's all driven by institutional adoption, even if I don't particularly like that that's the reason. It's a reality, and if you want to make money, you have 56 days to figure it out. Now, I've made several videos in the past. I would highly recommend that you go back and watch them to see what altcoins I think are going to be hot in the next cycle, which is specifically driven off of narratives. There are several narratives that I think are going to be very hot in this next cycle, including AI, proof of work, and gaming. And here's one of those tokens right here, which actually doesn't fall into any of those. This just happens to be a really good layer 1 solution called Injective Protocol. And the reason that I have this pulled up is because Injective Protocol, look at this chart. It's absolutely crazy what this token has done just in the last couple of months. You can see back here in December of 2022, it was $1.26. And now a couple of months later, it went to $44.78. That is a monstrous gain. This token is really hot right now. I'm a part of the community. I'm actually an ambassador for Injective Protocol for a couple of NFT projects. But the reason that I have this pulled up is this. If Bitcoin does have a correction of 40%, altcoins will always go harder than Bitcoin will. And one way to figure out what it's going to be is just to grab, again, the Fibonacci tool from this previous low right here all the way to the current high. and the golden pocket sits here between $20 and $21. And we also know that big even numbers are a huge area of interest for crypto investors. They like to buy at low even numbers and they like to sell at high even numbers. And $20 is a big even, if you want to call it that. So that is one area. I like to go on my chart and I like to draw a box right here, so I know where that level is. And then I also like to draw a box here at the 786 to 818 level, which is also a couple Fibonacci levels of interest, probably ones that will never be hit, but that's like a worst case scenario type of thing. And then I also like to draw another one here at the 0.5 and just kind of estimate what that could be, kind of like that. So we've got a level here from 26 to 24. We've got a level here from 21 to 20, and we've got a level here 15 to 14, basically. The most likely scenario is if Bitcoin has a drop, it's probably going to be one of these two boxes as far as where it bottoms. From the top here to this box, you're looking at 42%. To this box, you're looking at 52%. To this box, you're looking at 67%. And again, 50 to 70% is a common altcoin correction during after the pre-halving pump. So while these look crazy, like, oh, I could never imagine Injective at $15 again. Well, it's happened many times in the past. It's not something that's that outlandish. But with the bullishness and the institutional adoption in this cycle, and this coin in particular being very strong, I would be looking very, very hard at that $20 area. And if price came down to 15, I would just hold through it because I know that Injective is on a track to probably hit $200-300 this next cycle. It's a really strong token. It's really fast, and it's a really hyped up project that a lot of people are into. This is another topic of discussion that I mentioned the other day. But as we close out the video here, I've got Bitcoin dominance pulled up. You can see Bitcoin dominance is sitting here at 54%. And I believe that 58% is probably the cycle high for this one because of all the altcoin belief and all the altcoin adoption that's happened over the last 4 years. It's reasonable to say that Bitcoin dominance is not going to go to these previous all-time highs of like 60, 70% because now the space is more diverse. There's more altcoins, there's stable coins. It's just not logical to say that Bitcoin's going to go up to those levels again. But this box of resistance right here between this support level and this support level and then becoming resistance, I think this box, whether it's here or whether it's here at 60%, somewhere in this area, I'm using 58% simply because of the Fibonacci extension from the last move. But somewhere in this area between 58 and 62%, I think is a good place for Bitcoin dominance to top. And that could be the beginning of when the next cycle actually truly begins around the halving. I hope you learned something today. I'm giving you my all on this one. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave me a comment below. Truly consider the amount of time that you have before your financial freedom could be a possibility. We have 56 days until the halving. There's a lot of things to research. There's a lot of decisions to make, and make sure that you have a plan and don't mess this up. Safe trading. We'll see you in the next video.